today has been great.
Yeah. Right out there on the leading edge, and everyone moved. Everyone moved.
Everyone.
Nothing in your world will be the same. You've moved enough. When you move something at the center of who you are, picture a wheel, and if it moves a little on the edge, not so much, but if it moves a little in the middle, big things happen. In other words, a large degree of allowing has taken place within you as a result of just participating with us here today. And there will be observational, really clear awareness. You're going to witness things that will help you to know that you moved. Yeah.
My questions have almost all been answered today, and during the segments of refreshment I was talking with my wife, and a new question pops in. Now, I don't meditate. This past year has been amazing. I've unblocked a lot of things that I've said, oh, I can't do that, and I just let it all go, and things are phenomenal. But I want to start meditating, and I listened to you today about, you know, getting that impulse and following.
Well, if things are going really well for you, maybe you found another way of getting in the receiving mode. Don't be so quick to say you need to do something that you're not doing. If things are going really well, it's a really good indication that you're in the receiving mode a lot. Esther walks around in the receiving mode. She doesn't have to be in meditation to be in the receiving mode. The appreciation mode is the receiving mode. The joyful mode is the receiving mode. When you are feeling exhilarated, that's the receiving mode. Sometimes people get out and take a good run. We were talking to our athlete friend about it, and they get into the zone, they're in the receiving mode. In other words, there are a lot of ways to get there. Meditation is just a really surefire way to get there.
I think the question came to me, it was, you know, inspired by the conversations we've had today. The impulse, and I know a lot of people here, we all have jobs and we work for a living to enjoy life and things like that, but if we get that impulse, can we say, I want to do that, but I've got to go to work? So when do I get back to the impulse? Is it something we have to do right then and there?
Well, the thing about the impulses that are coming from Source, they're always applicable in this moment, or Source wouldn't give it to you. Source has sized everything up. Source knows exactly where you stand in relationship to everything you want, and Source isn't looking to get you fired. If you've received it, then it is applicable now. Because Source isn't talking to you what you're going to do down the road or tomorrow or the next day or even this afternoon. It's coming right here and now. It's coming now. It's now. Esther went with Jerry. He liked to fish in streams. And they went to Montana. The Bitterroot River was one of his favorite streams to fish on. And he knew where all the fish were. He'd say to Esther, there's one over there, and he'd cast over, and he'd have a fish. And there's one over there, and he'd cast over there, and they'd have a fish. But one of the things that he liked most to do is he'd take his rod and his creel, and he'd roll up his pants, and he would run down the rocks in the river. And Esther watched him, and it was like the rocks appeared beneath his feet. How he could do that, and Esther would attempt it. She was always wet to her waist because she didn't believe the rocks would be where she wanted them to be, and she didn't believe that her feet would be stable beneath them, and she fell on her butt many times in the water. But Jerry had been doing it for so many years that he just believed that whatever he needed in regards to that would be right there where he needed it to be when he needed it to be there. And this is the way that we want you to think about the information that is coming from your inner being. Your inner being knows where you stand, knows what your capabilities are, know the way your mind works, knows what you want, and knows what the path of least resistance, your path of least resistance is. And you can trust that when that thought comes from the receiving mode. And how are you going to know? How are you going to come to know? Well, if we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd receive some thoughts and we'd act on them, and we'd see if they are received from inner being or if they're received from somewhere else. The stuff that turns out good, you can be pretty sure was inspired. And the stuff that's turning out not so good, maybe it wasn't so inspired. You see what we're getting at? So what was your question? What was the new question?
The new question is when you get that impulse, is it time to act on that immediately or put it off? And you've answered that. So
all right, so you're driving down the road and you get an impulse to change lanes. Nothing makes Esther more mad at herself, and we don't encourage her to be mad at herself, but this makes her mad at herself. She gets an impulse, she doesn't act on it, and then the reason for the impulse becomes obvious. Have a feeling I should change lanes. Oh, well, I don't think I will. And then you get rear-ended and you think, that impulse was probably a pretty good idea. Next time I'm going to act on it more efficiently. So we want to leave you with a point of focus. really ties into this whole conversation. It ties in with this new leading edge question that you've just asked. Alignment and timing are synonymous. So alignment equals impulse equals timing equals happy. That's timing, and your inner being is the master of timing, because there's so many things you could do and it's just endless. But when you get an impulse, and the more often you do it, the more you'll feel like doing that, until you can go through a day where everywhere you go. The day was like that for Esther yesterday. She traveled by herself, and as she traveled, everywhere she went, it was like a door opened. There was someone there to greet her and to smile and to help her everywhere she went along the way. It was her timing. She drove her own car to the park and ride, and the bus was right there, and a man took her bags out, and there was a place for her to park right there, so she got right on the bus. And then they drove her and one other person to the airport rather than waiting for the bus to fill up. And Esther thought, oh, I really like how things are working out. And then the bus let her off right in front of the sky cab, and she gave him her bags, and off they went. And she got right to the gate in the most comfortable fashion. Everything about it was just unfolding perfectly. And then she had this wonderful flight, 2 wonderful flights. And when she got to the baggage claim, her driver was not there. He was not there with his sign, and he wasn't answering the number that she'd been given. And when she did reach him, this was the first sign of something that looked like it was out of sync. The driver said, I'm supposed to be there at 2:30, right? And Esther said, well, my note says 2 o'clock, and I am here. And how long will it take you to get here? Well, let me call you back. And he called back, and now he's kind of making up some reasons that he can't be there. And Esther said, it's all right, I'll just take a cab. So she went out to the curb, and there was a cab right there, and she stood there for a moment, and the woman who was assigning the cabs to people was distracted by something else that was going on. And for just a moment, Esther thought, you really should pay attention to me, because your job is me. But she was doing something else. And so a cab driver who was sitting right there saw Esther sitting there, and he came and undid the rope and escorted Esther to his cab. And he got in trouble for that, because that's not his job. But as Esther got into the cab, she said to him, well, that was very nice, thank you very much. And then they began talking about the most wonderful things. And then Esther said to him, you are a very strong man with powerful good intentions, and life is going very well for you. I can feel it. And he said, is that why I feel you all over my arms? They were such energy friends right away. There could not have been a better thing that had happened to either one of them. They were guided to be together for a 40-minute drive that was delightful for both of them. And what looked like was supposed to happen that didn't happen wasn't the best thing to happen. And after a little while of just relaxing and taking it as it comes, and trusting that the universe is always doing what's best for you, and let that be your default decision about things, that things are working out for me. No matter how it looks, things are always working out for me, no matter how it looks. And to the degree that I allow it here and now, to the degree that I am willing to look for things that are satisfying here and now, then there's no end until you feel like you've been on a magic carpet ride. Like, could this day have been any better? Could I have had better timing? Could I have had more pleasure? Could I have had more satisfaction? Could I have had better timing? And the answer to that is yes, probably, but this was really, 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 really good. In other words, the more you acknowledge the good timing, the better the timing continues to be. Creation is so much fun when you realize that you are doing the creating. And allowing is so much fun when you realize that you hold the keys to the allowing. The deliberate creation of your life experience is what you came for. You didn't come because stuff needs to get done. You came because you like the experience of energy flowing through you. You like the feeling of alignment. You like the feeling of life flowing through you. You don't like the feeling of pinching it off, and you don't like the feeling of not letting it in, and you don't like the feeling of the imbalance of it, but you like the feeling of learning it, and you like the feeling of getting better and better at it. And once you get hold of this, just regarding a thing or two or a thing or two or a thing or two, it shows up more and more and more and more in your experience. And you might find yourself enjoying your singularity a bit. You might enjoy feeling the timing that you are able to receive. And then once you get that really going good, then you might hook up with somebody else that knows that too. And when two or more of you come together with that sort of knowing, with that sort of energy flowing, with that sort of exponential expansion, when you start hooking up with the energies that create worlds in a conscious, deliberate way, we're not going to say you're going to accomplish a lot, because that's not the point. We're going to say you're going to have a really, really good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We like this day a lot. We liked what happened energetically. We liked the translation into your own mind that you accomplished. It just doesn't get any better than this. It really is co-creating at its best. Have so much fun. There is great love here for you. And as always, we remain joyously in your vortex. Thank you very much.